Hello, everyone, and welcome to the past brought into the present with this Pink Puff community race featuring ZZ1 flags, but a little kinder. Xenocat and Warlink. No, that is Grunt and Kryal. And I'm joined here by Mulboy. Might be some Slada issues here. We'll get it worked out. How you doing, Mulboy?
I'm doing well. Yeah, no, to call out, this is definitely a blast from a past. We're looking at ZZ1 flags with some slight modifications. Call out being the O None flag, which is something we have not seen in a very long time.
Yeah, no, for pretty good reason. So O&N means there are no objectives. This is before we had the objective system, we had a crystal hunt. Like, you got the crystal, you got to go to Z. All you needed was a pass or a darkness crystal beyond that, and that's kind of the situation we find ourselves in right now.
For sure. I mean, it could be, the crystal could be buried incredibly deep. The crystal could be the first thing that's given by the Beigen spot. So there's a lot of variance there. Really, you need to check everything but trap chests, and it looks like we are off and running.
Yeah, it's also Kano free, so there could also be a Demist hiding crystal. I know that's come up for couple folks in practice before, but for now we have Rydia, we have a Young, we have a Twin Harp, so not a Crystal start, and we're off to the races. And also for everyone else to know, we do have a couple restream issues. The feed that you're seeing is correct. The tracker information we need to reload. We'll get that straightened away as soon as possible.
Yep, and it looks like we did manage to avoid Team 90 HP, with Yong being the second character and Beigen giving the Twin Harp, so it'll be interesting to see where our runners end up heading.
I think typical start on these, yeah, we see some divergence here. We have, so we have the runner on the left running over to check the summon immediately off of Hob. So this is Esgrant. Aha,
And
we're back.
possibly forgetting that this is Vanilla Hob, so you're going to see sweet, sweet Fire
It's
1.
literally just Fire 1, yeah. Well, wait, Vanilla, yeah. Vanilla, Agility, and Hops, yeah. So we, so these are callback to ZZ1 flags that I believe just didn't have randomization yet for the
For the Radius
for
spot, yeah.
yeah, for Radius spot or Agility for that matter. So that's why those flags are on.
Yeah, and
Meanwhile,
possibly Escrunt doing it for the loot on the back of
yeah.
Hobbs.
Meanwhile, Kryal has run over to Ublin Castle. Ublin, pretty popular place to go on T Wildish. It's just weighted very, very well with a number of boxes here to find good amount of stuff. But meanwhile, Grunt's just going to run in, finding Palom and Ruby or Elements at the Hobbs fight here. It's Elements.
It is in fact quarter leg here. Much, I think, easier to handle. You don't have to deal with the counterattacks in the same way. Um, Palom gonna land an ice one here for a sweet 250 damage.
Yeah, so this phase needs to end very quickly.
Yeah, we need to do
Life
enough
one's a
damage to
little
get.
spooky because I think the glare is going to come out now. This might be a wipe.
That
So
is
what this
gonna be
phase does, yeah, what this phase does at the Ruby phase, he just he has no chill. He says fire 2, fire 3, glare, go.
well, and let's
Repeat.
not repeat and repeat. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Cryo getting a couple of good items. I saw a Sylph Orb, and a ninja sword at least out of Eblin Castle for Kryl. So if Edge is in the sea, that is a nice pickup.
Yeah, one of the things about going to Eblin is that it's really good for a great number of party members that are not really Rydia and Yang in the immediate term, just from like axes and spears and swords and whatnot, but we're well set up for any characters we find in the future, and critically finding a Sylph Summon, even some sort of body armor, Poison Claw, Cat Claw, J items, lots of stuff that Kryl can find here to really help him out.
Yep, and it looks like that, by my count, is the third trap chest, so he can go ahead and finish the rest of the looting without too much problem.
And we see Escrant setting up. So this is cheeky and pretty smart here. So we have put up a Star Veil on Yang, and we're reflecting fire ones, including the fire one that Rydia got to learn. What's going on here, Moleboy?
So what Escrant is taking advantage of is when spells are reflected, they do not trigger any scripting. So in this case, kind of like when you see reflect strats on Z and it never triggers the HP refill, in this case the damage done by the reflected fire never caused the scriptifier for Milon Z to transition into Rubicon.
Yep, we see this come up often in late game spots where they have tons of hit points, but doing it very early games, very smart by Grunt, recognizing that Ruby, without sort of immediately being able to get him out of that form, was trouble for him, so it was very good adaptation by him to get through that fight.
Yeah, and I don't think Grunt has checked Baron, but Baron item drop does have Star Veils, so even using that one Star Veil on Yang, not gonna hurt Grunt too bad. He can easily refill. So, and it looks like we have some version of Milon as the first boss of Baron guarding a teller.
Good information to know, and a good amount of loot. Good to know what that shop is there. Meanwhile, Escrant has headed over to Antlion. Routing at this point is going to be, I think, pretty typical. You want to do like Antlion into Fabul Defense, into Ordeals, just trying to do things in increasing difficulty according to the vanilla game.
Yep, a shout out to a ninja sword that Escrant just looted free out of Antlion Cave. That's a nice thing to find if there is an edge.
Wildish, baby.
And here's the Carter Administration chest, Diamond Gauntlet.
I don't know when we started calling it that, but it's that room in Antlion that you never go into because it's an entire screen transition just to go into one chest in the back. We have occasionally called that the Carter Administration chest. But Grunt going all the way to the save room, going to take a save, feeling like the loot is good to have and a little bit of safety, since Rydia and Yang are a little weak at this point. Though Palom should have... Actually, we reflected spells. He might have, like, fire, too.
Yeah, I don't think he picked up as much as he usually would just because of the phase skip. But I don't blame Grunt here, especially after you take that... wipe that you're not expecting. I know I tend to be a little bit more careful just because you don't want to lose any more time. An interesting play here. I was gonna say the Assassin Dagger for agility on Palom is a nice play because you can always unequip it after the fight starts. But and the back row glitch on Rydia with the whip.
Yeah, so Grunt setting up here, kind of just setting up his party in a good order, doing the equips that he wants to do. That Dancing Dagger is I think would actually be pretty good for Rydia, but either of the mages can make good use of it. Oh, and here's the other form of Milon. So we have Milon and friends have invaded the Antlion's nest, and then Milon Zed is sitting there in Baron and just waiting to be finished off before one other fight to get Atella out of Baron.
Yep, and good call by you, Solaris. It looks like Palom just has fire too. Now, I kind of agree with you here. My thought would have been giving that Dancing Dagger to Rydia, just because with her lower levels and lower starting levels, she's just not going to be doing as much damage, and that Dancing Dagger would have been good damage on her, whereas you've got the Fire 2 on Palom, but still a completely fair play here as we see Fire and Cures going out to start killing things. Though I will say, usually Rydia not who you want to see as your white mage at this stage.
I mean, Cure 1, if you're ever going to make use of it at this point, it's pretty okay. I mean, it did 30 hit points per party member. Pretty critically could keep Rydia alive. Talon's just kind of firing off these Fire 2s. The Milon body part has... Okay, this is a little spooky. Has a little bit less than 1,000 hit points. When Milon is dead, that kick might do the job. These ghasts get really punchy when their boss is gone.
I was going to say that Cure 1 is not going to save if a ghast punches, but let's see.
One ghast left.
Okay.
Yeah, alright. They didn't get to act. Alright. Very, very good. Eskrent getting through that fight, no problems. We'll see what the reward is. But yeah, if you ever want to have a really bad time in that fight, kill Milon first and watch his friends just basically annihilate your party.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alright, and so now we have a little bit of parity here. Looks like Kryle finished off Milon just ahead of Eskrent, but I believe Kryle decided not to take Ruby or didn't check that yet. So here we go. I think we're going to have the Hobbs check now. Of course, the advantage being that Rydia does have that Sylph and enough MP to cast it, and Sylph Glitch is one of the 2 glitches I believe that is on. Let me double check that.
Yep, glitch, life, Sylph, and back row.
Yep. So basically what the Sylph glitch is, for anybody who's just tuning in or isn't aware, as long as Rydia is not in the center slot, as long as you have the MP for it, Sylph does not use MP. So we basically have infinite casts of doing damage and healing your party from Rydia on Kryle's side. So that Evelyn play of checking the Evelyn Castle could be very helpful here.
And Eskrent taking a play, not quite interested in full defense or Ordeals at the moment, really wants a 4th functional party member, running over to Baron, learns that it's Tella, which is probably not exactly the news that he wanted as far as additional firepower to his party immediately, but knows that this is Milon's Head. Milon's Head goes down very easily with some fire spells, including that Fire 1. I just want to keep pointing out that we got from Hobbs on Rydia, and depending on what this second fight is, this could be very spooky or it could be absolutely no problem, but I love the aggression.
Oh, and into Baron Guards. Interesting.
Okay, so this is free in about 5 or 6 different air quotes.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm wondering what Grunt has in his inventory to take care of this, and most of the things that we would typically look at for making this fight quote unquote free is just not available at the moment.
Yeah, here's the problem with multi-party fights at Baron 2. Baron 2 punches actually incredibly hard for its level. You're supposed to survive it with Cecil and Vanilla just long enough to hit him and knock him out of his mind control. That's the vanilla way you're tended to do that. So that spot punches intentionally very hard. So when you get 2 or 3 with like the dark imps, it's really, really difficult to get through. Especially the Baron Guards, because they counter. They counter any punches with Mini, and they counter spells with Piggy.
Nope, and we have some divergence here. Grunt checking out Waterfall Cave. I didn't spot what was in Mist Cave, but he noped out of that one really quick, and Kryle choosing to take full defense, so we'll see what comes out of there.
I saw a multi-party, it might have been like Kaipo soldiers in Mist Cave. We're just looking for D-Mist out of these spots. Doesn't find it in the waterfall. I didn't quite catch what it was. He resets so fast, but I'm going to trust that that's
sparkles, but I couldn't
spot it there. Yeah. So not D-Mist. Still smart to check that. You might as well, because if it's Wyvern, you know that Wyvern's not in the pool anymore, and that's a very, very nice to know that information.
Yeah, Goober calling out that it was in fact Blarg. Grunt going straight into the fight, which is Dark Knight Cecil.
Alright, Dark Knight Cecil at Fabul is pretty much free because of this Yang. So
Yeah,
it's nice to see this early.
This is nice to see here, and yeah, deciding that JMac, aka Iridia, is not going to be getting the XP here, but Yang and Palom taking it. I agree kind of with this play. You definitely want the XP on Palom. The quicker you can do it, the sooner you can get it. Oh, and a heads up play by Grunt and just throwing a life potion afterwards, so all of them get XP.
Did you know that justice is not the only right in this world?
You know, it's not, because Cryle has decided on violence with his DKC.
Well, look, someday you'll see. The day might not be today for Cryle, but someday.
That is fair.
TKC choosing violence right back. This has about 1,600 hit points.
Yep, we're about to see. Oh, interesting. Is it only physical attacks then?
It's only the attack command.
I had forgotten about that, so that's a play there. So he just basically used Soul for a free heal.
And getting DKC a little toasty with the fire too as well.
And it looks like we might be heading right back to that Baron Inn, because aside from Twin Harp, I think that is now the only progression with Pinktail coming out of Fabul Defense.
Ordeals is the next logical place to go, and I think would be pretty smart for Grunt, especially knowing that the Baron guards are in the French vanilla spot. Cryle may be tempted with that Sylph to run over to Baron Inn, though the sort of proximity play, the shortest flight path, would be to run to Ordeals here, and that's where we see Cryle going.
Yep. Now the real question is, are they going to check the Forest of Martin RNG? Nope. Alas. We will have to just wonder.
Look, last 2 times I did that, I'm just gonna put this out here. Last 2 times in T Wildish I did that, I found 100 gold and a Masamune.
That about covers the possibilities.
Yep. pretty succinctly, yep. Grunt going back to Baron Inn says, heck Ordeals, heck trials. My trial is right here, right now, with these stinking... Okay, never mind.
Well, he might just be saving. I'm just wondering what
we might be setting up
here.
Well, knowing how tricky this fight is, it's going to take a moment. And you want to do this while you're racing. I mean, yeah, this is a speed run. You know, you're trying to race, but if you've got a difficult fight ahead, go ahead and just take the time, take the moment to think about what you want and need to do. Now, of course, it's better to do that while you're moving or shopping or doing something, but, you know, if you really need the moment, go ahead and take it.
Open Cryle being very heads up here and remembering, hey, I bought this Odin orb, and I'm staring down Officer Soldier. This might be the time to just, use this, and I applaud the swag strat.
Odin is definitely a way through, actually, the Baron guards as well as these Kaipo soldiers. Mm-hmm. Odin has one particular issue. The devs decided that when they implemented the spell, you have 2 things you need to pass. You need to still hit the spell chance on Odin, which at this point might be basically a 50-50. And then once Odin fires, flip a coin. And it's a 50-50 for Odin to actually do its thing. So it's probably a 25% chance to do this, where you could just kill the small soldiers. They don't have a whole lot of health.
Yeah, no, that was my thought here too, but I mean, it's going to work 50% of the time every time, right?
Yep, pretty much. And Grunt going in, trying to stop one of the guards. One thing that might help Grunt a lot here is to turn the battle speed down, seeing how they got to act twice. Because we're going to lose the tempo of the fight. Palom was able to stop one guard. He's going to try to stop the other, but then Palom's going to need to get a turn, throw a life potion, and yeah, it's just too fast for him.
It's too fast, and even with that plan, and I get where Grunt was going with it, I feel like the difficulty there is stop does not last a huge amount of time, even compared to an hourglass throw. And so that also can be a complication in figuring out how could you keep that up, trying to keep both guards stopped and throw a life potion and all the other things that you're hoping to to pull off with that. Oh,
Oh,
grunt,
here's
grunt champion of the
great
people.
bow.
The
Tech-
questionably
that-
named.
The technically great bow, because we named it that. The sort of great bow.
I mean, it's not a crossbow, I guess. And is it the second worst bow, or is there one bow underneath it that I'm just not thinking of?
It is the third worst bow, so maybe it's just the average bow, because it would be short bow, crossbow, great bow, archer.
Elf, samurai, Artemis.
Yep.
Okay, so just about in the middle.
So
patently,
they could-
it's the Cain of bows.
Yeah, they could have just named it bow. Like, well, okay, fine, never mind. Spear is the worst spear, so it can't just be bow, but you know.
Yes. The bow technically needs to be the worst bow, going along with the rod and the spear.
Uh-huh, yeah.
So. All right, Grunt
yeah.
coming up here as well. This will be interesting to see how this fight goes for Grunt as compared to Cryo. Honestly, I was kind of looking over a Grunt screen, so I'm not sure if Cryo tried Odin and it just whiffed and then ran out of mana, or what the plan ended up being, but right now we're in plan... I guess it looks like Cryo wants to get some XP by killing the officer, which I can respect, so chop down to just a single soldier, which is pretty safe. I think I saw Palom taking all of 1 damage from the soldier, and here we go.
Yeah, the experience is nice for Palom. I mean, basically the sooner you get him Virus, the sooner you can get him subsequently Quake, just the more kind of exponential power that you get on your team. Grunt taking a moment to stop the officer. What this will do is that he won't be around to order his soldiers what to do, and they will just stand there, confused. No, not literally confused, they'll just stand there. Once the officer is dead, then they'll stand there confused
And start
literally.
punching.
Yeah. So there's now standing confused and doing nothing, and then now they're standing confused, but actually confused, which is where we're at now. It makes sense, I promise. Oh hey, comedy hour.
Ha ha ha. Honestly, not the worst spot to see this. It speeds up the script start, and with only 3 characters, only one of these characters is going to get demolished by Shadow.
So this is kind of a bad news moment. Golbez here means that so we have a typical like a safe boss thing that's on. Certain bosses cannot gate your access underground, and Golbez is one of them. So we know that this cannot be the only logical access underground. It could be it could be the second. But that means that Ordeals is likely not what we need to get underground. And then the other unfortunate thing is that the spot's magic is a little spooky and this party is not fast. So, okay, Cryo wins the 50-50. Palom takes... I think Palom's still losing hit points. But Yang gets a Star Veil up. And the fight's over.
Yep. And after that much damage, once Yang punches here, which there's the lost 50-50, but here we are.
Alright, so Kryl really wants experience on one of these mages. We have to be a little bit careful, because the Star Veil will eventually drop. Hasn't dropped yet.
Star Veil thankfully does last about twice as long as you would typically see from like a wall cast, so that's good. But
and the other thing that we need to make sure that we do is that, for the same reason of the elements not being able to kill itself, or the elements like script not firing, Golbez cannot trigger his own script either with his spells, so Yang had to get that final punch in there.
And it looks like Escrunt also won his 50-50, so that's good to see as well, in the fact that we are not going to have either of our featured runners wiped to Golbez, and that's called out a nasty spot. Now, definitely doable, but I don't know about your luck, but typically I lose my 50-50, so not my favorite situation to be in.
Yeah, no, we call that a 50-50 because nobody is really particularly fast on this team, and so Golbez gets to act before you can put up a Star Veil. It's pretty much guaranteed, unless you drop the battle speed really dramatically. So if you go to use a Star Veil, but he casts the spell on the Star Veil user, they die. Then the other character tries to use a Star Veil, they also die, and then it's just sadness.
And a heads-up play by Escrunt, taking some time to do some menuing rearranging during the crumble. Something that you'll see players do when they can, just because it's time you're already spending, so you might as well do two things at once.
All of that, all those ordeals, just for a single vampire. That was the reward here on Mon Ordeals.
That's a slight feels bad moment.
It gets worse. Grunt will have lost experience if he didn't kill the officer, and Golbez, because he has a Shadow Dragon, also doesn't offer the full EXP value. It's a little feels bad.
A little bit, thankfully. I think both Grunt and Kryle's Alums have Ice too, which makes this a relatively free fight to get through, at least, for that sweet, sweet vampire.
Yeah, so now these two are going to have to think about how to handle... Well, okay, actually, Kryle doesn't know what he's about to walk into, but Grunt has to think about how to handle that Baronin, because unless Demist is hiding at exactly Zot 1 and Demist has our access underground, which, like, there's a world that could happen. We're probably not in it.
Could be Twin Harp.
Oh, right, Twin Harp. That
now, I don't know if you would want to take Twin Harp with this team.
That's also not great. We've got two pretty bad options here.
In fact, Twin Harp with this team, even if they... So if Baronin does not have underground access, this is going to be a very rough team to try and get through Twin Harp with. Just because that Dark Elf spot has, I think, one of the highest magic defense stats in the game, and you would be running it with Rydia, Palom, Yang, and Tella.
Yeah, it is almost maxed out. It is so much spell defense that unless only certain spells pierce it, notably Leviathan, or Bahamut, or Nuke, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and if you ever just want to see a Nuke do 2,500 damage, do I have a spot for you?
Yeah. Now, I think the benefit of taking Baron in first is that Tella, who can't deal damage at that spot with his spells, still comes with Blink and Berserk. And Berserk, especially on Yang, will just help him do so much more damage, because he's pretty much the damage you're going to have to rely on at that Twin Harp.
Yeah,
but we gotta get through these. Yeah, but we gotta get through these guards first. See how Kryle wants to react to react to the grand news that he has just acquired.
I mean, you do have the clutch play that you do have an elixir, or sorry, a vampire now, just in case you need a clutch play to kill one of the guards.
I mean, the vampire is pretty okay, so this spot has...
Oh, and that is not the target you wanted that to go on?
Couple thousand hit points? Split in two? See, I mean... In theory, or it might be 3,000. In theory, one Zeus Rage, one Vampire, and like one, I don't know, Sylph could take care of one of these guards. Another option would be Stop, which is what Grunt is going with. And with two mages able to cast Stop, that might be the safest way through this. Other option is Toad if Rydia happens to have that already.
Yeah, I think the only slightly different play I would have done here on Kryle's side is actually single-targeted the virus, trying to just get one of them off the board. Because the quicker one of them is out, just the better off you are in this entire fight.
Yeah, exactly. Odin also a viable option, though Odin is very XCOM RNG, kind of hard to rely on it, but I mean, if it works, it works. But yeah,
Grunt, and Kryle in a little bit of danger here.
Yeah. Mini Yang only going to do 1 damage. Oh, Yang's not many anymore.
So that might have been the RNG and that might have actually been the play by Kryle. I could see that as
3 hit points. No!
No!
Wait, what? I thought it was Yang.
So did I, because he went down to like the 4 HP. But you know, and we don't have underground access, but we do have go mode.
Oh my god.
Well, I guess we need the darkness crystal first.
Yeah, we have almost go mode. We have crystal mode.
now it's time to panic.
Yeah,
because you think that everybody else finished this about 20 minutes ago.
Well, maybe You know it's a difficult spot. I don't know. It's hard to know what each runner is going to be thinking in this moment because it's very difficult, it's very stressful, and it's also a crystal. And now we have to take this team of mages and a punch mage and go to a spot that only cares about physicals in the Twin Harp.
So hear me out here. Based on the Get Baron Guard fight, all we need to do is cast Virus, and then just keep Yang alive, and then eventually the Dark Elf spot will die.
Yeah, in like 2 hours.
I mean, I'm not saying it's a fast plan, but getting some good pickups here. A Gaia Hat and a Charm Rod for Palom, Headband for Yang, a Heroine Robe if we want to really up the defense on Rydia, and or I guess you could go for like a Rydia Heroine Robe Assassin Dagger build.
Yeah, Cryo taking a moment to loot the public treasury in Troy, I think it's really smart. It's two things. It's one, like looking for something, anything to help the situation, and it also gives you time to think. Think about, you know, how am I going to deal with, you know, the next difficult check that I have to do. And then we also get to do some weapon shopping. Any sort of bow and arrows would have been really nice, or even a whip with that heroine robe. Didn't quite hit.
Can Child Rydia equip the power bonk?
Child Rydia can wear the power staff. Power staff still only swings for about 300-ish a swing. It's not very amazing at a spot that has 5,000 health. It can berserk one of your party members, but Tella can already do that. And yeah, Cryo's like, I need help. Looking, buying the Flame Whip.
And that is, I think, +3 strength, +3 agility, or is it just the agility? It does give some stats.
I actually don't remember. It's a pretty reasonable whip for Rydia, though, with the heroine robe. It's not going to be the most amazing thing, but that plus Yang, I mean, it's probably going to do about the same thing as Yang's going to do right now, so probably going to damage Kryl's output here.
Here we go. Flame Whip Heroine Robe.
2 heroine robes. That's
oh yeah,
cute.
I missed the second one. One of those must have been in hanging out in Eblin Castle. Also, just shoutouts to Adult Rydia. The thing you almost never see is Adult Rydia is able to wear the Zeus Gauntlet for some reason, which Edward cannot.
Yeah, it's a fun little detail. Yep. Flame Whip, Headband, Heroine Robe, Rydia is our DPS. And Yang is there too. But and meanwhile, Grunt is about to trigger, yep, out of the Dark Elf scene here, so we're gonna get some randomized music for y'all.
And here we go for DJ Spoony Bard.
So I am going to take a moment to talk over this, because this is kind of a gross fight. So this is vanilla Dark Elf, and we don't do a lot of damage, and Dark Elf is going to weak and piggy many, many times, while we're dealing about 300 damage around. We'll go ahead and go back to music for a bit. okay. I figure like a like a minute of that music is okay. We'll still get to enjoy it. I just think there's some stuff to talk about here.
No, for sure. We've got, looks like Tella's about to try to piggy himself back out. I agree with this play. I think you, probably at this point, I would try and Berserk Rydia. You know, she's not going to be casting. It doesn't really matter that she's, piggied if you're having her punch. And, just work on getting those things back set up. Smart play by Grunt, having basically, Palom in this fight be his, basically be his chemist, but here we go with at least getting into phase 2, and that is a lot easier for Grunt as he's about to stop the dragon version of the Dark Elf. One of the things to note here is that the dragon does not have a boss bit, so things like weak and things like stop are perfectly usable.
Yeah, so that sets up the strategy now that we're in the second phase. So, fun note about Piggy. It's not fun, by the way. Piggy is a terrible spell. It takes forever to cast, has a very long delay, and it has a 30% chance, like base chance to hit. It's very bad. It's very, 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 very bad. So relying on it to unpiggy someone, yeah, we just see Tella miss. That's kind of the issue here, because what Grunt really wants to do is stop Tella from being a piggy so that he can cast the weak spell, put Dark Elf into single-digit hit points, and then finish him off, and instead he's just sort of having to do this very slowly and sadly.
Yeah, interesting Cryo coming in with, like, I'm not sure if a few more levels on Rydia or exactly what's playing out here, but Rydia doing a lot more damage. I think both of them berserked, and instead of doing weak, still managing to punch through. So I'm really curious to see, yeah, Cryo coming in before or coming in after, but out before Grunt on this fight, which is very interesting to see. As Grunt again tries to unpiggy Tell.
Yeah, Cryo had a little bit more experience on his Yang, and also might have had an extra piece of gear like a headband, because he certainly had one for Rydia, and Cryo's Rydia had the like full DPS setup there. But yeah, gets the news that this is our underground access, and through the fight, feeling, I would imagine, with trepidation, but better, having gotten through that pretty frustrating
without
overworld.
a wipe and having to go through the well, and also without wiping, so you don't have to go through the music cutscene.
Yeah, exactly.
A second time. You know, and this is one of the things, like, I know Martin calls this out and a couple other runners. Cryo having those heal pots, much easier to deal with Piggy when you have heal rather than relying on the Piggy spells.
Yep, and I also believe that you can cast the heal spell while a pig. I might be wrong about that.
It didn't look like it because Tella's white magic was zeroed out. I believe he has heal, does he not?
Yeah, Tella has heal. If you could cast heal, you would want to cast heal because it can miss. But yeah, the piggy spell is just really, really bad. It's unfortunate.
And
but yeah, they got
audience, and I was going to say audience overjoyed because tonight we've got ourselves a hook route.
We also have a pink tail. That could be something nice.
That is true, and I believe adamants are on.
Could even be adamant armor, yeah.
That is definitely a pickup for, honestly, Yon pretty good with a adamant armor. Palom pretty good with an adamant armor. There's very few characters that do not benefit from adamant armor.
I think literally everybody, even a Tella with an adamant armor is a much better character.
I was gonna say less likely to tell a life.
Yeah. I mean, if you get enough stuff like an adamant armor and a Stardust Rod, like Tella could be a respectable mage. And right, okay, so this is always an adamant armor, of course. The pink tail, without adamant flag, it's just an adamant armor. Life gets so much easier, probably.
Yep, Cryo going through to do their hunt for the D-Mist. But I think we've covered all the above ground bosses now that they have access to, so it is going to be having to dive this hook route.
Yep, so we go down and we'll be diving a hook route. Now, I think, ironically, I mean, it's gonna end up being fine because of this adamant armor, but one of the more interesting characters that could be down here is Cecil. The vanilla agility flag is on, which during CZ1, I don't think we had a way to change that, so the game's agility system is completely based around Cecil's agility, which can cause problems. And if that character is Cecil, we cannot say no to him. He just joins the party. Because you gotta go through that to get further down the hook route. So that could be an interesting wrinkle. Otherwise, I mean, pretty much any addition to this party would be good. Maybe Edward might be the theoretically worst, but any bodies at this point are good. Adamant armor, though, will help us get through most anything that could be gross down there.
So for those members who are maybe a little bit newer or just turning insulars, do you want to explain exactly what vanilla agility means?
Oh boy, agility is weird black magic in this game. Yes, so it means that the agility... So, in this game, this is an ATB system-based game. It's the first one that Square Enix made for their Final Fantasy Mainline series. So if you can think of like FF5, 6, whatever, with an ATB, like an actual ATB bar, we're just not showing it in this game. But in this game, that ATB system is based off of Cecil's agility. Everything is sort of banded around it in very weird, strange ways. The way it plays out functionally, also, I have to pause myself. Edge is a great character. Kainanzo is a disgusting hook route boss. We'll get to that in a moment. Agility is black magic. The short answer of what agility is that when you play this randomizer, on the overworld, you want to have a character that has fast agility because the bosses are slow. That will help your other party members out. For the rest of the game, underground and on the moon, you want a slow agility anchor because the bosses are fast. It will end up speeding your characters up. Normally that's the person in the middle slot. With vanilla agility, it just means it's Cecil. Without Cecil in the party, it defaults to the middle, but once he joins the party, it will always be based on him.
And that means you don't get to control having that slow anchor because Cecil is going to gain agility. And it makes things a little bit touchier than it might otherwise. But in this case, honestly, Edge is probably, I feel like, who you wanted to see there. Ninja shirt. Escrunt, I think, is going to be like ninja long. Kryle is, I think, ninja sword with a headband, a ninja shirt, and a strength ring. That's a pretty good situation. Or not even the ninja shirt, just slap the adamant on Edge and start punching things.
Yeah, so that is a very powerful setup. However, the Seed chose violence and put probably the only boss that doesn't care about adamant armor.
Yep.
He's called Kainanzo. And why is Kainanzo so bad to see here?
So, okay, the downsides of the Ruby spot is that Ruby has 26,000 HP and is relatively quick. Kainanzo has an ability called Wave that he will use on certain timings that does a percentage of his HP. The fact that there is 26,000 HP here means that it's going to do flat damage based on that to everybody, and it's not going to be a good time. Now, I will say that Edge is actually a really good find then, because of the fact that I believe both of our restreamed runners have a Thunderclaw, which Kainanzo is weak to when that water is up. And that does allow Edge to put in some damage before that wave comes out. Also, this seed did indeed choose violence, considering that's a CPU at King Queen Eblin.
Yeah, the CPU is honestly annoying, but it's fine. You really can't die here. Dealing damage is kind of frustrating, but you just want to kill the healing orb and then either Dart would be the most damage, Sylph would work because it pierces the wall that the CPU puts up, or just slowly punch it down. It's annoying, it's slow, but it's fine. This is this part is fine. What's not fine is the Kainanzo.
The interesting thing being, I just realized, like, Grunt at least does not have a lot of darts. He has, I think he threw an assassin dagger, and he's got two shorts to throw. So
yeah, and he doesn't have the Sylph. Yeah.
Oh, the dancing dagger will definitely help here. But yeah, I think Cryo will have a much easier time with this one.
Cryo will do it much faster. But we can't. The good news is we can't really die. Tella does have like Cure 2, Cure 3, can keep the party up. It's just, you know, we've got to deal about 5,000 points of damage to the main body here.
Well, if Cryo didn't have 2 Ninja Swords before, Cryo now does have 2 Ninja Swords. One out of Evelyn at least, and then the one just and we now, I believe, have a near complete edge kit, unless I'm just
and a Zeus Gauntlet. Yeah. I think it is very smart by Cryo to loot in this situation. It might be sort of like, as you're learning Free Enterprise in general, the more looting that you do, of course the slower that you go, but the more safety that you have. And it's something that I lean on pretty heavily when I'm learning randomizers is, you know, finding more power. But especially in this situation, where you know the hook route is incredibly difficult and disgusting, finding anything that you can to help you have an advantage, I think, is a very smart thing to do in this situation, especially when you're uncomfortable.
For sure, and I mean, and it's, in this case, paying off in the fact that that extra power, I think, is part of why Cryo was able to go through Dark Elf faster. Definitely going to help here at the CPU, and frankly at the Kainanzo spot as well.
Yeah.
And I guess, wow, is the monster spot in the... I haven't seen the Staleman chest. Is it in the infirmary?
It might be, or it could be if we didn't loot. There's a third chest sort of in the first cave. A lot of runners don't like to go out of the way for it. Could be there too.
I saw Kryle check that one, so it's
okay. So it's probably in the infirmary then.
And then this is also the other reason to loot out Evelyn, is you get a lot of stuff and then you can sell it.
Yep, and then buy, you know, like all the sirens you need. That silk web actually looks pretty good for Kainanzo. I want to take a moment though and talk about Kainanzo. Why is this a problem? So like we said, Kainanzo has an ability called Wave, which is based off of his max hit points, and that attack does not care about adamant armor. Just flat out does not care. It just does flat, like, you know, perfect damage. Nothing reduces it except reducing the health of Kainanzo. Why it's a problem is that the first wave that comes out before some amount of damage can come out will wipe this party. It's not a question. We don't have a lot of hit points. Yang maybe could survive after some time. So the thing that we have to do instead is manage the wave, which you do by casting lightning when the water is gathered. So that's why we see Rydia charge a lit 1 after Grunt got that punch off. And we're going to see if this takes out the wave or not. The thing I don't know is if these starting kits even have Thor Rages in it. If they do, it's very good. But yeah, so the timing is really difficult, and the wave comes out and the party wipes. And Grunt goes, oh my gosh.
Did Grunt adjust his battle speed? Or is he trying to do this at BS1? Because that could be part of it too.
He might be at BS1. I'm not sure what his battle speed is at the moment. The reason it's difficult, and this is sort of back to why agility is weird, when you have a slow anchor and the boss is very fast, the boss is what we call RA1, Relative Agility 1. And what that means functionally is that if you imagine an ATB bar, Kainanzo's ATB bar is 1. Like, he gets 1 point and it's full. So it's not really a bar anymore. It's more like a switch. And like every time that the game is going to look at Kainanzo to ask what he's going to do next, is going to let him basically put up this wave, cue this wave, and then a lit has to, like, at a very precise moment, come out between the wave coming up before the game says, okay, I'm going to cast my wave. Because if the game says I'm going to charge the wave, but that lit landed, it doesn't matter. The wave is still going to come out. And basically, the faster that Kainanzo is, or the lower that RA number is, the far more difficult it is to find that moment where you're safe, where you can stop the water from rising and actually stop the wave from coming out. And Grunt, unfortunately, has not found that sweet spot with the setup just yet.
No, and that's why I was asking if he's on battle speed 1, because that makes this even more difficult. Just because, to give an idea of how fast BS1 goes, even a tool-assisted speedrun at battle speed 1 will do what we call bleeding tick. So even the tool-assisted speedrun is not fast enough to perfectly time basically still loses time against like the boss queuing and things like that because of how battle speed 1 works.
Yeah, so if RA1 means 1 tick of ATB, a tick of in-game time depends on what the battle speed is set to. At battle speed 6, it takes about 1 second for 1 tick, which is very slow. At battle speed 1, it's, without looking at the wiki, I want to say it's something like 6 to 8 milliseconds. Or like 6 to 8 frames. And there's 60 frames per second.
Yeah, and the right idea here with the Berserk,
it's
but
very
I
fast.
don't think you're going to get enough damage in to not...
So here's why Berserk is critical. When a character is attacking, ATB is frozen. When a character is attacking reliably because they're berserked, first of all, they're doing good damage. Second of all, okay, the wave still comes out, but Grunt's got the right idea here. So you get your first actor to berserk or attack, but it's better with berserk because they'll keep attacking per round. Attacker swings once. The second actor is in the menu with an item that casts like a Zeus Rage. You can reliably figure out the timing, even at battle speed 1, of when to throw a consumable that is used instantly, because you can know that ATB isn't ticking while the character is attacking. So it just makes the timing very reliable. So Grunt has sort of all the pieces here to figure out the puzzle. He's just got to figure out how to put them together. And if you're not well practiced on this, you probably don't know.
Yeah, and
it's just going to take time.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if the Lit 2 there was too slow. We're going to find out. It's very difficult. This is probably, to me, this is more difficult than nerfing Big Bangs for timing. But
it is.
He got it.
It is for sure. And nerfing with Lit 1 and Lit 2 are very difficult because Lit 1 has a delay on it, a small delay, and Lit 2 has an even longer delay. So in the world where you can reliably know how to counter these waves because you've got an attacker attacking while you're in your menu and you can throw a Thor Rage like when that attacker is done, you don't have that reliability because you have to rely on these spells that kind of take a moment. But if Grunt can cancel a couple of these waves and then deal enough damage to Kainanzo, and it's very smart to also just like queue everything he's got, queue the Lit 2, queue the Lit 1, throw a Thor Rage, anything to nerf this wave. We just need to deal enough damage so that the wave isn't lethal anymore. And yeah, canceled the second wave. Very, very well done here.
Yep, so that should be... Now I think even if there's a miss, there should be enough damage that we're not going to see a wipe on the party. So hopefully that means that Grunt is out of the danger zone here. Very smart move by Cryo throwing a Silk Web on this.
Yeah, Silk Web is very helpful. That RA1 I named, where it's 1 tick per turn. Silk Web doubles that, so if it's RA1, it turns into 2. If it's RA3, it turns into 6. 1 to 2 is double. It helps the timing quite a bit more, especially if you don't have a Bacchus or Berserk, which makes kind of, again, timing pretty reliable. Now, it's still a little scary for Grunt, just because this party doesn't have a lot of max hit points. A wave could still come out and wipe out Tella, Palom, and Rydia, and Yang if Yang isn't healed up for a little bit of time here. And losing 3 of your party members is a pretty easy way to lose the tempo of the fight.
Especially with both Edge and Yang berserked at this point. That ends up being a little bit of a we just have to hope kind of scenario, which is never necessarily where you want to be.
Yeah, but we've dealt a lot of damage at this point. I was going to say, certainly by this point, and now we're hiding in the shell. Hiding in the shell, he's going to heal himself based on his max hit points, which is a pretty beefy heal, to be honest, but He's also weak to ice at this point, and ice 3 from Tella or ice 2 from Palom. We've got enough damage to get through the rest of this, so really, really well managed by Grunt here. And so far, well managed by Kryle, too.
Yep, took a wipe the first time, but I think the timing on this is a little bit better, so hopefully we're going to see some... Oh, yep, that was successful because whenever you see that punch, that means that the wave was not queued.
So this one's a little spooky. The wave is coming up. I think it's going to come out. Kryle, recognizing he doesn't have time to cancel this anymore, is casting Sylph and hoping that anybody survives.
Yep, looks like might have gotten caught slightly off guard with it coming back so quick while getting people up. But we'll see if this is enough. I believe the Silk Club is out, so he's got a little bit more of a wiggle room here. But
the wave still comes out though.
Here we go. Does anybody stay up?
And total party wipe. Yep. Kainanzo at Ruby, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, this is not a kind spot for this boss whatsoever.
Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. Yeah,
right?
not fun.
I mean, even considering like Grunt is kind of through the danger zone, still taking a bit to kind of chop through this. But finally getting the crumble. So S-Grunt is underground at only 55 minutes, which considering a Kainanzo hook crowd, not bad.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. Very well done by Grunt here. Again, this is the Pink Puff League. These are a collection of runners who are newer to the game and trying to learn, you know, the ropes, learn the ins and outs of this randomizer. This fight at this spot stymies so many runners, even folks who are very experienced at this game, just because of how difficult it is to manage. I agree with your assessment before. Navigating getting rid of these waves is a lot trickier than doing it at Zeromus, in a way, just because you have to, the timing is so much more frequent than trying to nerf big bangs from Zeromus. Now, of course, Zeromus is, you know, it's very time consuming to wipe there, but this is a difficult fight. This is a fight runners, like, even very experienced runners don't want to see here.
Yeah, and I'm hoping this, I think if we've got enough buffer, we've got a spell buffer and then a lit 2, hopefully that buffers before the wave, we're gonna see. But, yeah, I mean, and this might be a little bit more interesting, by the way, noted by Cubs, is Kryle deciding to go with Edge as the anchor, as opposed to Tella.
Trying to adjust. It's, if he can throw a Silk Web out immediately, a faster anchor can turn Kainanzo into RA2. So this is getting very technical though, but with a faster anchor, with at least, I believe, 18 agility, you can make that spot RA2, and so then when you throw a Silk Web, it's RA4. Now, yes, Kainanzo will act very quickly, but the timing of throwing the lightning spells becomes much, much more lenient. You just have to deal with a boss that's pretty fast, though.
So yeah, and it looks like we're going for the tried and true levels can help solve things.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, even just getting Quake on Palom could be hugely helpful for this.
Now I'm going to go over to Grunt for just a moment since he is underground. Grunt is in Find Darkness and Go mode. Finds a Sparkle on the left and Asura on the right, and the Fame Arch, not interested in either of those. Was given a pan from the Fame Arch. Now, Darkness can be just one of any number, like, of any places. I think he's going to be very interested in checking that pan immediately because, again, you just want a Darkness Crystal. So instead of having the efficiency of, like, doing your underground checks because they're all next to each other, I do really like the play of just taking this pan, bonking Young immediately, and even going above ground and seeing what Sheila has, because she could have Darkness.
Yeah, I mean, this is 3 item checks, so you've got the pan check, because I believe Summon is on. So you've got the pan check, and then you have both of the Sheila checks to try and get that Darkness Crystal you're looking for.
Yep. And then if those don't have it, then we can go back underground and sort of contend with what's left in the seed, which is honestly not that much. At the moment, it's Dwarf Castle. There is no warp glitch, so we cannot get into the Luca Cave and find a vanilla Darkness. So it's Dwarf Castle, it's the top of tower. Then again, okay, the Luca key is there, so it could be behind Luca. Yeah, it really just depends on what key items show up here. Cryle, meanwhile, trying to get really any levels that he can on his party. Levels are going to mean more... Well, it's going to mean a couple things. Keeping Tala down means all of his party is going to speed up, and it also means more hit points on his party members, more damage multipliers, so they can deal more damage more quickly, so we don't have to manage the waves as often. Really anything to get through that fight.
For sure, it also means it also means if the water does get gathered, Thunderclaw, Ninja Sword Edge will just be doing so much more damage. Or just the option of not having to worry about using the Thunderclaw and just going like Ninja on Edge, which also just means that you're doing damage while the wave, or while the water isn't up, which speeds up that second. So,
oh my god, Sheila. You had this magma key the whole time. The whole time.
Yeah.
We could have just...
That would have been nice.
Oh no. Well,
that's the obligatory Eskrent can get underground now.
Yeah, yay. Wow, that's so helpful, Sheila, thanks. The other thing she had was a sword. She said, here, take this. It's dangerous to go alone. Legend Sword is just a shiny, useless sword, kind of, at this point. We really just need darkness.
I mean, it gives you an edge dart, I guess? Question mark? But well, yeah, the way forward is either one of those Feymarch bosses or Dwarf Castle. Or Luca. They do have the Luca key.
Could also be Luca.
I don't believe Warp Glitch is on in this flight set.
Correct.
So it means they will have to actually go down if they want to check that item.
Yeah, and Grunt says, sure. I've already done like one of the nastiest fights in the game. Let's just go to Luca Cave. I've got no chill. This is fine.
I mean, the advantage of Luca is you get to spy the key item, see if it's something you have to walk out. It's a quick check to check for your demist as well, and then if neither of those are things you need, then you can just nope on out of there.
Yeah, hopefully if it's not a key item that we care about, Grunt still checks the boss just in case. I mean, odds are very unlikely that it has demist there, but you kind of never know. And you're here, so...
Yep, it's always the last place you look. And I appreciate the good old Odin play on that ogres.
Yeah. Odin animation is so good. It's just the nice swing.
And that is possibly one of the things that... Yep, and that's partially, I guess, what Cryle was going for, taking the Quake on Palom to help as well, just because that's going to be more in the range of, let's see, not a lot of armor, but you got a Gaia hat, you got a Charmron, so probably in the 3k range.
It's going to deal more damage, yeah. The tricky thing, I think one of the smartest ways Cryle can get through this fight without knowing the exact timing, because it's just sort of, why would I know this? It's so niche. Is to just fire all the lightning spells that you can at all times. And just try to guarantee, which would mean kind of taking up Palom's time.
Well, but I definitely think we're walking this one out, because that's the Baron key out of Luca.
That's, finding a chain is really not what you want to see, because that Baron key could be useless. We really just don't know. By useless, I mean not holding darkness. The spoon is an amazing dart, just taking 7,000 damage out of a very annoying Outlion's health immediately. Still need to deal about 12,000 more.
I just want to shout out the fact that Cryle doing a little bit of shopping and then also a little bit more looting. Infinitely more powerful Rydia just with the Sylph cast just by itself, much less Odin and everything else as compared to what Grunt is playing with here. I really think that it's interesting to see kind of the difference between the two.
Yeah, I think we've also turned the battle speed down at this point, looks like. I'm gonna throw out the Thor Rage with Palom here. now that the wave is up.
That looks
It's
like the
trying to-
timing should be good.
It's certainly, yeah, it's, again, it's hard to tell, but with anchoring with edge and throwing a silk web, that should be good timing. It should be good timing.
Yeah, not just a leveled up edge, but a leveled up adamant edge should help with that a lot.
Oh, a leveled up adamant edge, I would actually have a ton of agility. He might not be wearing the adamant armor. I didn't see, you know, what was switched around, but that might be a bit too fast to make him because it would slow your party down. But yeah, we're managing the waves here pretty okay. Might need to just go to Lightning 1 now. But Lightning 1 with the Silk Web out might honestly just be good enough.
Yeah, I'm hoping. It's always hard, like, when you're doing this, because as you saw, Cryo waiting's like, okay, I don't have a Thor Rage, I don't have a Zeus Rage, we kind of got to play this a little more careful. Figuring out how do we get through. But hopefully that was enough as well, and as you've kind of mentioned, things get safer as you go on, just because more damage is coming out, you're lowering the damage of those waves. Hopefully, Tele eventually able to get a Berserk up on Edge to make this easier, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, so the wave was cancelled, so we're at a good spot now, because now Kryl now has a formula. It works.
Yep.
When the Gathering of the Water, we cast Lightning 1, we know it hits, and Kryl might not know this, but we know that, actually, I don't know, it's hard to know, you know, runner knowledge of this game. There's just so much niche knowledge. It's part of what I love about this game, but also what stymies me. Regardless, with the fast anchor and the Silk Web out, the Lightning 1 spell is good enough to cancel these waves, and that's all the information now we need. Kryl can keep doing that, and is guaranteed, I believe, at this point to get through this fight.
Yep. Like I said, I just hope that once it comes back around to Tele, he can get a Berserk off on Edge, because that'll actually really help, because then you're doing damage while waiting on Palam's turn. That's kind of the one downside of kind of the setup here right now, is you're kind of sitting on Palam's turn, but again, better off being safe and getting through than taking another wipe because you decide to get greedy or try to go too fast.
Absolutely, absolutely. Meanwhile, on Grunt's side, we see that he has got 10 key items, I believe, and with those 10 key items, we have double the experience is gained from all future encounters, including these eggs. Why are we scrambling eggs?
Well, there are certain grinds that people like to take in order to gain levels, and eggs are probably the most popular when it comes to the pre-darkness crystal choices. They're worth quite a bit of experience, and march fairly low HP totals. They're, I believe, 1800 HP. They start just as that happy little egg, so until as Grunt did cracked it with the first punch, they don't do anything, and you're really just hoping to get a couple kills in order to power your characters up. They're worth, I believe, with 10 key items. So I guess I should have said, once you get 10 key items, then your experience totals are doubled for all encounters, and that massively helps. So I believe we're going to see 68k come up here, which is a huge chunk of experience, and really power up all these characters.
Yeah, and oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I wonder if Grunt is gonna swap things around and maybe put Palam in. Oh, I didn't catch the Assassin Dagger, so he's trying to Assassin Dagger kill this. That's tight timing. I don't think he's quite fast enough.
Yeah, so I was going to point that out. You could kind of tell from the weapon animation that it's an Assassin Dagger, or at least I was pretty sure it was, in the way that he was kind of waiting afterwards, sort of expecting. So Assassin Dagger can kind of do an on-kill attack, or like a kill on attack kind of thing. But again, because agility is weird and black magic, and this game is coded in just a very particular way, on-weapon proc effects depend on the enemy having an empty ATB bar. Why it's programmed that way, we don't really know, but that's how it's programmed. Or very near that. So we know at the very least that the closer to empty that their ATB bar is, the more likely you're going to get that proc. But with Tele being the slow anchor, the egg is probably RA1 or RA2. At RA1, again, that ATB bar is 0 or it's 1, and it's never going to be 0 in the setup where we start the battle and we swing with edge immediately, and so the Assassin Dagger is never going to proc. Grunt likely might not know that, because why would you know that? It's such like weird niche information, but we're still able to deal a good amount of damage with edge. Yeah, he's kind of giving up on that and noticing that he's still dealing good damage anyways, so makes the proper adjustment here, forgets the Assassin Dagger, and we're just going to one-shot these eggs now.
Yeah, and what I was going to mention is maybe swapping Palamon to your top spot to have the first turn and just Virus, since Charmrod guy had should be like pretty good for getting damage in. If you ever need to be sure, Quake and Egg, it pretty much is almost always a, kill.
But the accidental warp cast where, okay, nothing happened. I thought that might exit the battle. Okay, never mind.
I think it's just exit that does that, which is always kind of hilarious when it happens. And yes, Kryl is through with the shaking Kainanzo.
Hey,
so awesome to
well
see
done
that.
by Kryl. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a mean fight, and I'm sure there's plenty of the runners off screen that are going to be having a time with that.
Yeah, I imagine. How many? Let me look at how many are in the race now. Yeah, we have 9 entrants total. That means 9 people are pulling their hair out. For any of us that do have hair, it's just like, oh my god, Seed, why?
Yeah, that is definitely what you don't want to see there.
But yeah, we see Grunt doing all of these eggs, and the reason Grunt is doing that is because at 10 key items with 15 Sirens, it is a very fast, efficient, and viable way to get Nuke onto both Palom and Rydia. And with Nuke, we are going to deal gobs upon gobs upon gobs of damage. All the damage. Everything goes in the microwave from here on out.
Yeah, and I do agree with the split, right? Because like we've talked about, you are a pass or a darkness crystal away from it's time to go fight C.
Yep.
So you're not assured of getting experience on the moon, you're not, and our progression could be gated behind either of those bosses, so better to be ready. And then we have Kryl at the same time, it looks like, deciding to break some eggs as well. I don't know if they're planning to do their full stack without the 10 key items. Maybe wanting a little bit of security before doing anything in the underground. Certainly there's money available from looting if you need to in order to buy more Sirens, but we'll see what they decide to do with their stack.
Yeah, so Kryl is only at 5 key items and doesn't really know that 10 will kind of come pretty swiftly from here on out, so it does make sense to me to crack maybe a couple of these eggs, get a little bit more power, especially if you're thinking that you're going to do like Dwarf Castle right away, one of those things. Having Quake and good gear on edge is definitely a comfortable place to be at this point, but we also don't really have a reliable healer, especially with Attila being down. Our reliable healing is Sylph at this moment, so I don't blame him for taking a few eggs here. It's just a little like, and you never know this while you're running these seeds, right? What's exactly going to happen, but he might be a little unhappy to find 10 key items show up pretty shortly. But it depends on what he chooses to do.
It is. And in the meantime, we did have somebody redeem a ton of channel points, so a sweet, sweet shout out to Bagel with Locks. Thank you for your points. You've obviously watched a lot of this in order to amass 75k.
Bagel with Locks, 75,000 points. That is so many points. That means you have watched so much free enterprise. I myself am sitting on 164,000. I know some folks have quite a few. I'm here like constantly. I used to do so much restreaming. The commentary is giving me points. So like having 75,000 for a shout out, that's like, we appreciate you so much for watching and hanging out and enjoying these races. And we hope that you enjoy many, many more to come.
All right, and it looks like Grunt has decided they are done with their grind for the moment. Could do more. I don't think they ground fully up to Nuke, but could have missed it in the shout out. Maybe they do, just because.
Yep, Rydia's 50, Palom's 53, yep. So we know that he does have Nuke on both his kids. And yeah, I mean, it's that you're Darkness Go mode, you might as well just get the levels now, because you're just going to have to do it anyways. But Kryl says, Kryl might be thinking, I need to do something a little bit different, because if the pan has darkness, Kryl might be thinking this is really difficult to catch up because that hook route was so difficult to get through. So opts to just run straight to Dwarf Castle and finds D-Mist, which means that this check is going to be worth 2 key items.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, actually getting rewarded for this, and the fact that if D-Mist is holding Darkness Crystal, this is a play that people aren't necessarily going to take.
Yeah, I think the more logical, we love to say logical, the more like better odds play, or the play that likely leads more towards more key items that then has more chances of getting darkness is to run that pan immediately, I think. The Dwarf Castle check is notoriously known for being a bit slow, because you've got to go through two bosses, you've got 2 cutscenes, one to start it, and then one for the Golbez part. Actually, and then the 3rd cutscene afterwards with the spooky hand. You do get a character out of this, which is nice, but it's just a slow check, so a lot of runners like to fade it. Get a cane for our trouble, see if we're interested. Nope.
I think I would have been more tempted by the cane if I had basically not thrown all of my spears in order to kill Kainanzo.
Oh, right, all the darts. Hey, I mean, it's worth it. You do what you gotta do.
Oh no,
like,
for sure.
Yeah. Alright, well, Kryl luckily finding the water hag here instead of the alternate blue sprite, which would be... I'm guessing it would be the vanilla gauntlet.
I don't think Alt Gauntlet exists.
It didn't exist here.
So
yeah.
But I mean, Goober also calling out something that I like to kind of mention sometimes is we talk about the logical or quote unquote the better play, but at the same time, like a rando is gonna rando, and sometimes you could spike exactly what you need out of something like this. And with Kryl feeling maybe a little bit behind after that Kainanzo being a little bit rough, maybe you do the thing that you figure less people will do, and for all you know, it could pay off.
Yeah. Oh, and to let Chad know, Wyvern we found in Waterfall, I think. Yeah. So Wyvern's gone. Grunt finding the D-Lunars in Baron here. I believe this is the Bygone spot. Oh no, it's the throne. Okay, yeah. This is a spooky spot to find Wyvern, by the way. You've gone through all of Baron, and then suddenly you just get blurred to death. It's not fun.
And that is a Sid.
Yeah, hi Sid, bye Sid. Vanilla,
yeah, and
by the way.
I even think at this point, if you run into Cecil, I don't think you take him.
No, you've already done your grind. Your way through Zeromus is double nukes and some damage from Yang. Cecil would really just be a liability at this point with that vanilla agility. I almost said vigility.
I'm here for it. I love portmanteaus.
All right, what's in the pot? Is it? We threw a rat tail out. Now we gotta go do a little fetch quest.
I mean, luckily that that's already there, and of course, Leviathan showing up after it would have been useful, as with most things, in Tomra.
The chat asking, is there slingshots available? Yes, there are. So, Kryl seeing the Leviathan, and Grunt for that tail getting Bahamut for his troubles. Bahamut's nice. I think we're at the point of the seed, especially since we already took our grind where, not what we wanted.
Yeah, it could still be useful for Kryl, just because we haven't seen the full grind yet, and it does offer, you know, a couple things that Nuke doesn't. It's AoE, it pierces wall, but most of the majority wall bosses I think we've already seen. Maybe Bygone is gonna get roasted, but you know, a lot of the other ones are kind of already off the table.
Yeah, Bahamut is an incredible spell. It is literally Mega Nuke. It's just it doesn't help its Zeromus. It is kind of its downside. Zeromus, when you cast summons against it, casts Virus against you instead of Nuke in most phases of the fight, at least certainly the first half of it. And when And fun note, it's not fun by the way, uh, when Zeromus counters with the virus, Zeromus turns the spell power up to make the virus hurt a little bit more. And then if he doesn't change the spell power after that, you end up boosting the Big Bang instead of nerfing it. So not what you want.
Yeah, it does not tend to be the play most people go for in the game.
Yeah, Bahamut also has a delay to it, which delays on spells in this game were balanced for vanilla. Speaking of Bahamut in the Odin Throne, that's funny. Spells in this game were balanced around the fact that Cecil has an average, like a slightly above average level of agility, and so then the ATB system sort of based around that, and then everybody's acting. The way it ends up shaking out is that spells with delays cast a little bit faster when your anchor is faster, but when your anchor is like very low agility and everybody's RA1, spells that have a delay on them end up feeling like they take an eternity to cast, and Bahamut is one of them.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I just want to shout out Grunt allowing Bahamut to count down to 4 before that ends. And we have a party rock.
Yay, the fetch quest, it continues. This all came from the pan. No, this all came from Luca, by the way. Luca into Baron Key into Rat Tail that had Bahamut, but into the Odin Throne, which now has an Earth Crystal. Would you like to do a fetch quest?
I mean, at this point, it's seeming less do you want, and are you going to have to?
Yeah, it wasn't really a question. I know I posed it as a question.
Sorry, I missed that it was rhetorical.
I know that I asked, but it's not really. I mean, you could choose not to do it. And Grunt's saying heck that. I have double nukes. This Fame Arch is a little bit faster. I'm just gonna go there.
You know, I feel like it's a good play. You got 2 checks. You're feeling confident. You've got the speed where if you pretty much berserk Yang and Edge, you're just gonna sweep through Plague easy enough. We've got here the proper. I mean, Kryl actually played this Plague fight very well, knocking out Yang. We'll pick him back up and just gonna do Life Roulette to reset since the spot is not prohibitively fast. Plague at Asura would have been a much different beast. But Plague at Leviathan not horribly overly fast, so it gives them a chance to keep up here.
Yeah, chat pointing out, by the way, chat also wishing for key item violence. Top of tower could easily just have darkness or like the vanilla tower key into darkness. The one sort of tricky part here with Kryl's agility setup is that we're anchored with Edge. Don't know if Edge is still wearing the adamant armor or not, but
no. Yeah, I think on this one he is. Grunt took off adamant armor and took it off Edge and put it onto Palom for those sweet quad 9 nukes.
Yeah, so Plague's script is like casting fast on your party in order to make the count go faster. It actually doesn't work that way. That just, I don't know, the implementation just didn't really play out that way. But when you make your anchor faster, that does actually kind of speed up how that count goes down. Resolves. Yeah. So it's like a spot you really don't want to be fast anchored. I think the thing that's saving Kryl is that he seems to have turned the battle speed down. Or he still has it down to like 3 or something like that. Just gonna make this more manageable. It's just a bit slow.
And what we were talking about a bit ago, we're seeing again with, you'll notice a Starveil going up on Palom. Kind of the same sort of idea that if you bounce the nuke, then it's not gonna actually trigger the counterattack when it comes to Asura. And with the wall up on Asura, she will just continue to cycle through and bounce spells onto the other characters.
Yeah, reflected nukes are a really good strategy against Asura specifically because Asura does not physically attack your party until you deal any damage to her directly, and then she starts punching you, and the spot's still kind of punchy. and like you don't want to see her cast a Cure 4, but yeah, I mean, Grunt's just basically got everything he needs to get through this.
Yeah, Nuke solves several problems in this game.
We put many things in the microwave in this randomizer, can confirm.
Yeah.
We put calamari in there, we put... That's the only food analogy I have in there, and then, you know...
I mean, in defense, that is probably the only boss that makes sense
Turtles.
to eat. That's true.
Turtles, it's a good one. Alright, Ninja Sword for Mature was not it. It's Grunt not happy with that, but gonna go heal up, save, and try the other spot.
Yeah, I guess that's an interesting question. Would you reset out of that? I guess it's just a little bit more experience. That doesn't matter. It's not a long walk back.
Yeah, I would not save at that point, because you don't care about the reward, so you can just go to the next boss and not really care, especially since we've still got MP. But if you're unsure, if you're ever uncomfortable, just take the moment to save. It's fine.
Yeah.
Better safe than sorry.
Yeah, and I guess like at the same time, there was no major expenditure of resources, in that way either. So that also kind of helps as well.
Okay, so Grunt putting up a Star Veil against Plague. So here's a cute thing. Plague the count can be reflected. Plague now has a count on him. We've got 2 ways through this fight now, and I see Grunt just dealing direct damage, but this means that Plague will just keep casting count, and we don't have to worry about like picking up party members, taking them down. Another way that Grunt could choose to go through this, but probably not necessarily because we just have these nukes, but when Plague has the count reflected onto him, he can actually kill himself with that count. You just have to set it up properly. And this again goes back to the weird agility system in this game. Plague is RA1, which means he has 1 tick of ATB. You need him to have 2 ticks of ATB with a Silk Web or 2 slows, and that kind of gives the game a moment to get a chance to look and see if his count is gone and then actually kill him. But the Star Veil and Palom now just means we don't have to manage picking people up, I don't have to worry about the count, I can just cast nukes and then get through this.
And that is really interesting, and a play that's going to work out for Cryo. Cryo not taking Asura, instead saying, hey, I got a pan. Let me chase that.
Package also not the reward Grunt wanted to see. Now, Grunt doesn't know that Demist is at Dwarf Castle, but...
Are there any other
probably
plays?
Not going to check that package.
Because Grunt's checked Luca, Grunt's checked Rattail. Dwarf Castle feels like the... Oh, you mentioned Keela's Top of Tower could be very cheeky as well.
Yeah,
so
Keela's Top of Tower, Dwarf Castle are the 2 things left. And I don't believe Kryle has turned in that Demist. That could also be holding our darkness.
Nope. Since Dwarf Castle, Kryle has not gone above ground. So hopefully we'll see a check of that too, because that would be pretty great as a very cheeky Darkness Crystal location, though...
Yeah, we'll see if this is up...
Or Zod in general, I guess, now that Earth
Yeah.
Crystal is out there.
Yeah, so we'll see if Cryle was just making proximity plays, to checking things that are all close by, and then it's going to check Demist now, or if, nope, we're kind of going the other direction. It's very, 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 very easy to forget about Demist. It is incredibly easy. We have all been there. If you say you haven't been there, I don't believe you. Unless maybe you don't play the randomizer.
I'm just gonna, I just realized, did anybody check who Top of Tower was when they went through when they finished Hook Round?
I no longer remember. I want to say yes, but maybe chat remembers. I don't.
Cubs is saying think Sparkle, but do we even have I guess Ogo's still out in the
We
wild?
do. We have Ogo. I think we have Paledem, right?
That's true. We have not seen J-Mac's favorite sound effect. I'm just gonna say, considering this is a ZZ1, let's shout out the fact that Grunt only has 4 key items left. Or I guess 5 if you consider the pass as well.
Kryl has remembered the Demist. Or may have been hoping that the Pan had it instead, but now we're gonna go check. This is in the randomizer key item check when the no free key item flag is on, and we are rewarded with Sand Ruby. Not it.
Womp, swamp, womp. To answer your question that you're asking in chat, Oscar, you owed that comment about the time of the Kainanzo hook route.
Yeah, this has been okay. So to catch folks up, from the start of this race, we were given Yang and Rydia and Palamet Hobbs, and those characters. Okay, we see a Porum, and Kryles just says, "Yeah, sure, I'm interested." Maybe no, never mind. Yeah, we're thinking about it. Porum is a white mage when Kryl doesn't have one. All right, we're gonna say no thanks to that. But anyways, Rydia, Yang, Palom against Baron Guards at Baron in 1. Sorry, Baron in 2, holding the crystal, and then Dark Elf at the Twin Harp, holding the hook. Again with like Rydia and Yang to punch through, and then Kainanzo the hook route. We have been looking for Darkness Crystal for what feels like an eternity now. Cannot find it. It has been a ride.
Yeah, and I think it's. I mean, at this point, are we Zot and or top of tower are our options?
Zot and top of tower. That's it.
Because it's not Baron. We've been through Baron and Baron basement. It's not Demist. We've checked. I'm just looking through the key items. We've checked Ban. We've checked Rattail. We've checked.
Yep.
Everything else. We've checked Luca.
Yep.
So.
Sure have.
Kryl actually benefiting from not doing Luca Cave at this point because we know it's just going to lead down a rabbit hole of Baron Key into nothing.
Odin Throne did have that Earth Crystal, so that is
so it might be required.
Theoretically required.
And what
Now,
else?
I know
What
folks.
Grunt decided he wants to buy.
Hey, Grunt wants Star Veils. Remembering Star Veils are in this shop, might be out entirely. So pretty heads up to remember that they were in that shop. But yeah, so Keyless Tower. Keyless Tower is one of those awkward things we love to fade to the ends of the earth, just because it takes you like a minute and a half to run up there, maybe just a minute, and then you got to do the boss, which has a ton of health, and then run down. But especially at the point that Grunt gained all of those levels, it is actually kind of a fast-ish check, especially at this point. Because if it's nothing, you can just go away. But Grunt says, nah, I'm gonna check Zot. And remembering that the treasury is here, doesn't really need it, but this might be just fun for the restream. Hey, we're gonna play a little game called Rate That Treasury. So far it is Zeus Gauntlets.
This feels like this would have been great for Dark Elf before we had to do Dark Elf over 10.
Sure would have. So it's like you get here and you're like, wait. You're like, hold up. You've had all this stuff just sitting in your castle basement all this time. I'm doing you a favor taking care of a Dark Elf that, okay, in vanilla, yeah, it's still your crystal, but like, he's still like right nearby. It's like, couldn't you have just let us, no? Thanks. The seat is full of like NPCs that like, hey, here, I'm helping. You're not helping.
It is a running theme of FF4, to be sure.
That's fair.
It's
My
like,
favorite
oh,
is...
Oh, good.
I was just gonna say, my favorite is still Sheila just holding the magma key. Like, yeah, I had this the whole time. Sorry.
I mean, I just appreciate in vanilla. It's like, yeah, so we'll totally like help you out, but you need to fight a bunch of dudes first and try and help us defend our castle because we can't do it ourselves. And then the boat ride goes swimmingly well for everyone involved.
Swimmingly. That's funny.
Yeah, I'm glad you saw what I did there.
Yeah, and Yang doesn't totally get kicked off the ship.
That might be a little bit of lore that I buy into, yes.
That being a cutscene we don't really get to see in Free Enterprise because we have, I would say thankfully when you're trying to speedrun this, eliminated most of those cutscenes.
Indeed. Going between the guy and the glass hat, electing for glass, I can see that. The 3 wisdom probably not a major deal breaker with a nuclearium.
Now, I will say, for a point of learning, when you are learning to start pushing your Free Enterprise play, so this is kind of a stage after, like, you're trying to get comfortable with your randomizer play, then you kind of get to a point where your natural skill and ability and knowledge gets you to a certain point, and then when you're looking for things to start improving your times, one of the things is when we're late game like this, and we've got a party that's got double nukes, all the hit points, all the levels, sometimes you don't need to go into your inventory to your equipment and start managing them, because a glass hat at this location will not matter, because it's early game and we have all the damage, and the glass hat against Ceremus doesn't really help. So it's just one of those things that's like, it may seem small, but when you add up these things over time, and they're going to come with comfort, comfort to know and be relaxed and realize in a moment like, oh, I don't need to do this menu equipment right now. And then you add those moments up as you get more and more comfortable. That is a really good way to start speeding up your time in these runs.
For sure, and I was going to shout out that with the use of the apple, we have Iridia who can almost survive an unnerfed Big Bang.
Apples are very useful, yeah.
And we found better Tella.
Yeah,
so we don't have
found,
a curse string.
Yep, 1 Edward and 1 mop to go, please.
So I'm wondering if, I think at this point he's gonna hesitate here.
I think
you know what? I can appreciate that.
Yeah, I think Fu is a perfect pickup because with the reflect strategy, double nukes does get there, but a 3rd nuke caster makes it a lot easier. So Grunt is fully on the reflect strategy for Zeromus now. He will be reflecting nukes to finish that fight. Edge is there to deal a little bit of damage, maybe throw 1 high-powered dart if he's got it, otherwise he might get a punch in, otherwise he's just the person who puts up the Star Veil.
And Chemist, yep.
Yeah, and then Chemist.
With this team in a proper Tella, anchor, like, you're probably not going to see a second Big Bang, so this team is pretty
exactly.
fun.
Yeah, and adding Fusoya to your party really helps guarantee that you don't see a second Big Bang. But I think it's a pretty smart adjustment here. Now, is this darkness? Or has it been?
I'm excited.
All along.
I know, I'm excited because we've got Kryl about to climb the tower, and we've got S-Grunt doing the Earth Crystal reveal. And one of these two is going to be...
Darkness from Zod. Grunt is finally in go mode at 1 hours, 37 minutes, and 20-ish seconds.
But hear me out here. What it would be great to see, Pass is top of tower.
Pass would be net neutral as far as time, but this is pretty bad news for Kryl because Kryl now has to find the Baron key out of Luca and then do the Odin Throne from Baron to find the Earth Crystal. He'll probably turn in the Rat Tail from Baron first and find his Bahamut, so Kryl has a good amount of the seed left to do, unfortunately.
If this is Pass, then it's a grind and go. They've got Crystal.
Oh, because... Okay. Pass would be... I'm just thinking. I don't think Kryl's done a grind.
The little bit... they did a couple of eggs at sub 10. So you'd need to do a little bit more of a grind. They still have 13 Sirens. So... more than doable, but that would be a very interesting shakeup on this race on stream.
Yeah, my brain is my brain is almost never on having the crystal this early. The crystal in hand the pass does give Kryl access to Zeromus. I think Kryl's gonna have to crack those eggs and then go to Zeromus, which would put the advantage still on Grunt, but it becomes a lot closer.
So here we go. Let's find out. Here's our Paladin.
Now, it's not guaranteed to be here at the top of tower. K Moon and K Summon are both on still, so any of the moon spots could also have the pass as well, and could have that Adamant Rock as the last thing we haven't seen.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm just hoping deep down.
Oh yeah, it would be great. If this is pass, it's amazing.
I'd just like to shout out the fact that Palom learns Quake at level 23, and Rydia is probably in the mid-30s and has Virus.
Rydia doesn't learn Quake until after her tier 3 elemental spells at like level 42. It's pretty bad.
Now, conversely, as one of our runners, Tibble, knows, Palom does not learn Warp until level 29.
Rydia learns that it's something like 10, yeah.
Yes, it's like her first spell. After the tier 1 spells.
Yeah.
So it's kind of great.
Alright, so Paladin is down. Survey says...
No whammies?
Pass!
Oh!
That's 2 paths to go mode. That's going to be
is...
very interesting for the finish for all 9 of these runners. Very different paths through this seed.
Yeah, no, and considering, like, it's awesome to see how close this is with, Kryl a little bit behind on that hook route. Definitely, like, Grunt doing a lot more checks, but that is a huge evener in this.
And there's that Sussel on the moon. Yeah, no. Hi, buddy.
Well, and funny enough, we have not seen any... We haven't even seen a Lightsword, I don't think.
Yeah, no, we haven't seen anything for him. Yeah, and even if we had an Excalibur, you'd still have to get him levels, and he has vanilla agility. It just, yeah, this is not your time, Cecil. Sorry. Now, Grunt is going to take a couple minutes to get down to the bottom and then get into the Z fight. Kryl is going to have to take, I'm going to guess, more than a couple minutes to crack some eggs. I think this is in Grunt's advantage here. And Grunt has the better Reflect party. It's still not over for Kryl, though.
No, and even, I mean, depending on if, anything could happen if Grunt goes back to, like, Battle Speed 1, that can definitely make for a dicey Reflect strat. Z can sometimes just decide nope, depending on how things roll, especially if there's a counter nuke involved, so we will see what we have. This is certainly not over.
No, and it's also really great news for Kryl for not having to go through that awful, really long chain to actually finish the seed out.
For sure, not having to get the Baron Key, but it would be Baron Key out of Luca in order to get your Earth Crystal off the Baron Throne.
Yep. Right after you got the Rat Tail from liberating Baron Castle, where you would turn the Rat Tail in and get rewarded with Bahamut. Yep. Pretty bad.
I think Palom has good enough gear at this point that the virus is safe. One of the things I like to call out to runners is, if you have Palom with virus and Quake and you're not sure on the virus, yes, the Quake animation and cast time is a little bit longer, but I assure you that Quake will almost always kill a egg. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen it fail. Whereas you would take a lot more time if it ends up being a situation where you have to watch the hatch, you have to attack again, et cetera, et cetera. So,
yeah.
Just to call out there.
Yep. Now,
that must be an adamant Palom with 2700 on a virus?
Yeah, likely, yeah. Yeah, he's likely been wearing it for some time, I would guess. But, hey, we've got some Got some fun little flags in chat.
Yeah, it's been a long day. I've been considering a nap myself, but I don't think that's what they're referring to.
We make this joke every time, and I still think, wow, a nap would be really nice right up. Not at this moment, but like naps in general. I support naps.
That is completely fair.
But no, this is the Zeromus flag. This is the big bad, the final boss. We do not randomize where he is. We instead randomize who he is with some like 550 plus whatever. I don't know the number anymore. There's hundreds upon hundreds of sprites that Zeromus could be. And so, with that in mind, Lowboy, would you like to do the honors?
Yeah, so we need to find out whose butt are we going to kick tonight. Additional questions: whose butt, what butt, how butt, does it have a butt, does it have a hat? I'm sure there's a couple others that I can't remember at the moment as well.
Does it have multiple butts? Is it cute? Is it creepy? Is it ooky spooky? Is it, yeah? Is butt?
Yeah, not just does it have a hat, is the butt a hat? That's another good call out.
Is the butt properly planning for its future with proper 401k contributions? Thank you, chat. Hey, it's Dragomess. I recognize that. I believe is from Crystalis.
That seems correct. I'm just gonna go with no, I don't trust this. I do not trust this one to do my taxes.
No, probably not. Is the butt cute? I would say arguably yes, but let's leave that there. The butt is in Crystalis. I want to say this is one of the 4 generals. That might be elemental based. I'm trying to remember. It's been literally 30 years since I played this game.
I'm gonna say based on the physique, but it's probably chiseled.
Butt is incredibly chiseled, yes, can confirm. But yeah, so we see the reflected nukes coming out. One counter nuke, which I believe got bounced back by a Star Veil, so that was really good targeting. Now the Big Bang is what we call nerfed, because Zeromus queued up or cast in a nuke spell, and the script takes the spell power of Zeromus and drops it down so that the nuke isn't just lethal, because nuke, as we see from these other characters, does a ton of damage. And we'll use that same spell power to cast the Big Bang, and it won't deal nearly as much damage as it would otherwise.
And fun fact, at least with the first nuke, because the scripting is not fully set in, you don't have to worry about the timing of the first one, you just have to do it before the Big Bang comes out. Things get a little bit more complicated if you have to nerf more than one Big Bang.
Yeah, the way that script ends up playing out is that Zeromus will... So for the first Big Bang, it's, as we said, after that, for each Big Bang afterwards, Zeromus takes a moment to set the spell power back to normal. It actually sets it, depending on the phase of the fight, slightly higher than previously, which is probably why the script sets it to begin with. But because it sets spell power, you have to like make him counter with a nuke to set the spell power like after the script naturally sets the spell power. That's why the timing is tricky.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I want to say the pattern is, like, the general pattern is empty turn, shake, then you have your set spell power turn, and then you cast the Big Bang, and you have to drop your direct cast that would cause that counter nuke in between the set spell power and the actually casting Big Bang phase once you're past the first Big Bang.
Yeah, it is very, very near that. We're getting very close to the end here. That actually is the finish. S-Grunt is done with the top, and we'll get the official stuff here in a moment.
Looks like an official time of 1:47:59. We had Funnel Cakes as our first place finisher 7 minutes ago, so with the time of 1:40, and J-Mac the Librarian finishing just after with the time of 1:48:20. So very close race between S-Grunt and J-Mac.
Yeah, very well done. GG's to all the runners so far. I tend to like to look at in that room and see, you know, who might be at first place. But this race was just so interesting and fun and involved that I've just sort of never had the chance to do it. So
Yeah, the two of them were
GG's
tight.
to yeah. So Escrant being finished now, we're gonna see if we can get him in for an interview. Very well done by him.
Okay, and in the meantime, we see Kryle setting up for his Z fight, but with that sound, I am pretty sure we have been joined by Escrunt. GG, Escrunt.
Thank you, thank you.
So so Grant, do you have any words about this particular seed?
I have a few, but I'm sure some of the other people may have a few more words than I do right now. I'm used to playing cursed hook seeds, and just the thing that makes me the most annoyed about this is I have the crystal as early as I do, and where is my moon access? Where can I go to finish the seed? Like, I've got everything else lined up to just be able to go and fight the seed, and I just need to... I just need to slog through almost absolutely everything.
So this is the part where I have to ask, would you like to know what's at top of tower?
Is that the pass? Because I thought...
Sure is.
Yeah, I said to myself, I'm only doing Keyless Tower as an absolute last resort.
Yep.
Like, it probably has value up there of some sort, but no, I'm not doing that this time.
Completely reasonable. Completely reasonable. Just happened to have the pass this time around.
Yeah, like I'd rather do Zot than Keyless Tower. And that's exactly what I did.
But honestly, despite that, finding your way in second place here out of 9 runners is very, very well done, very well managed.
Thank you.
For sure, and I would say, like, great job. I know, like, you had a little bit of trouble, like, kind of getting the timing down on that Kainanzo at hook route, but once you had that nailed in, it was pretty smooth sailing, and you were able to get underground. And
yeah,
then it just...
as I've learned recently, there's certain cases, certain positions where getting the timing for that exactly right is just a matter of, you know, hold down the A button for a couple of turns and then throw your throw rage or throw your lit one. But that's not quite the position and or the agility setup that I needed in order to get away with that. But once I figured that wasn't going to work properly, just thought carefully about what I was doing. I have several lit casters at that point, so I don't need to worry as much about the exact timing of everything. And that's what got me through it that time.
Yep, we were saying that was definitely the play that I would do that makes the most sense, because you just got all the lit casters, and yeah, very well managed. Took a moment, of course, to get there, but I think it would take many runners, certainly probably all the pink buff runners, because why would you know? Such this narrow edge case fight, like how to perfectly manage it.
Yeah,
so,
like you've got a party of mages and you have a turtle sitting there. What are you going to do with that?
When we were laughing in comms, of course, you got the one single boss that laughs at adamant armor after you turned in your pink tail.
It just works like that sometimes. This is Steve certainly has a sense
sure
of humor.
does. So I want to ask a question of a different tack. Now that the Pink Puff League is probably ending fairly shortly, I'm just gonna guess because the tournament, you know, is coming up now. So how have you enjoyed Pink Puff League? How's your time been in it?
I've had a good time. It's certainly been enjoyable just having interacting with all of the newer runners. I make that sound as though I'm not a newer runner myself, but I have been working around the community for quite some time. So it's on some level I don't feel like I've been around while I haven't actively been playing for very long. I feel like I've been a part of the community for significantly longer than that, and I personally take great joy in seeing newer players, and I guess you can include myself in this, just going through everything and learning and gradually becoming better at the game, and just that self-improvement is what really warms my heart about the whole thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, our Pink Puff Club is it's very inclusive. It is for newer runners. It is for lesser experienced runners. It is really the only gate is if you are an incredibly kind of fast, skilled runner. I believe that's really the main. It ultimately ends up being the main requirements. It's one of the things I like about the league is that you know, it's not just for like just strictly new learners, right? There's something to learn for everybody. Yeah. Well, I think that might be the last of my questions. Do you have anything else, my boy?
No, I think Eskrant just about covered everything I was thinking of. Again, GG's. Congrats on your second place finish. That's awesome to see, and best of luck with. I'm sure we've got probably one week more of races just based on the tournament schedule. So I hope that one goes smoothly for you as well.
Thank you.
And in the meantime, during our interview with Eskrant, Cryo smoothly taking down his Dragomus, and so GG's to him as well, finishing with a time of 153.53, which is good enough for 6th place. Having Dipwood finish in 4th with a time of 152, and Charlie finishing in 5th with a time of 153 in the meantime. So very much GG's to Cryo as well. We'll hopefully be pulling him in just a moment for a interview as well.
We should probably get up your hair first before we do that, but I do want to take a moment to thank Solaris and you, Molboy, and Neon, who's their second time on Restream duties, doing a fabulous job, I'm sure. And of course, Cubs pushing the buttons this time around. And of course, too, Kryl, my opponent in Restream, and all of the rest of the Pink Puffs as well. I'm sure a few of them will be happy with the naming scheme that I put up tonight. So, about now, good evening.
Yeah, thanks so much, Grant. Thanks for putting on such a fun show. We appreciate it. All right, and yep, that was Eskrant. Eskrant, also Restreamer extraordinaire, recently made Restream lead, one of the great members of our community. We certainly appreciate Eskrant.
For sure, and just like a shout out to just the Pink Puffs in general, and the fact that working through these flag sets, really learning a ton, and just awesome to see like how successful they are as well. So with that, I believe we've been joined by Kryl. So Kryl, what words do you have about this seed and for Asuka, and which of them are you allowed to say on stream?
Yeah, that was that was quite a seed race spot put y'all through.
I will say, your checking top of tower was very chef's kiss. Do you want to know what would have happened otherwise?
I would have like gone on a wild.
Oh no, you would have had to do Luca Cave, into Baron Castle Throne, into Earth Crystal, in order to get your Darkness Crystal.
Yeah, sometimes sometimes this randomizer just really chooses violence. But yeah, I don't know. Just tell us, early game into the hook route, like, just how are you feeling about things, and what was on your mind, with Kainanzo, and how you ended up adjusting.
I didn't realize like what was going on, so I was like, okay, I've got to bring mages to music. That's always fun. So I go like buy a whip for radio. It's like, okay, everything's fine. And I see Kainanzo, I'm like, oh no, oh no. And it's like, I've just got to make it through.
And I would say you had a very heads up play on doing the shopping and prepping for your Dark Elf location, just because you entered after Eskrant and actually got out ahead of him. Just having the more damage on Rydia and a little bit, I think you had some poison claws on Yang at that point, which gave him an extra multiplier, which helped you get through much smoother.
Yeah, like the poison claws, I just want to get stats on Yang, and it's like without the power command, because J commands are off as well. It's like he's kind of just gonna sit there and be a sack of HP a lot of the time.
Forgot about that. Yeah.
It's like anything to give my guy the damage.
No, but I was just gonna say, like, very well played. You did really, like, I was gonna call out that. I was gonna call out really well played on Plague. Going in there at the lower levels and just kind of playing everybody's favorite, Life Roulette, and keeping everybody up. Very well done. And
Yep.
Oh my god.
just
Life potions. I like completely forgot my Cydia existed. I was like, I opened the plague fight, and I just see that I've got 3 life potions left. I'm like, oh god, I've committed to it. I've got to do it.
Yep, and it always feels nerve-wracking at that time because you've already invested that much time. It's like, well, sunk cost fallacy time, but it worked out for you. You managed to get through, and that was awesome to see. I mean, it's never a great feeling when you have to ether Palom because you virus so much, but you got through, and yeah, no, props to you. Well played.
Thank you, and well played to everyone who like finished the seed. Blimey.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a real pleasure to watch. You were, even though you took a little extra time to loot, which I thought was very smart once you saw like how gross that hook rat was going to be and having to go through the twin harp. You were really well set up and situated, and it's really just Kainanzo, the kind of stymieing, which really happens to literally every runner that does that fight the first time. And then even again, once you're really experienced and then haven't done it in forever, it still ends up stymieing people. So I mean, besides that, you were kind of you were running very well. You were running ahead a lot of the early game. So I just wanted to put that out there too. You were playing very well and continued to play well throughout the rest of that entire seed. That just really wanted you to suffer as much as possible.
Yeah, and shoutouts to the super smooth Z fight. You went in, like Grunt had a little bit of an extra like power piece there because Zot had Foo, so he actually had 3 nukes, but you did it with 2 nukers, made it look super smooth. So that was also really awesome to see that you just cruised right through that as well.
Yeah, it was really lucky for me because I had like done a mage fight earlier in the day. And it's like, all right, as long as I count, I can
Perfect.
do whatever I want with Yang and Edge, and like make sure they don't do anything when they hit about like 45k damage, and I'll dodge the refill.
Yep, and that's that's the perfect way to handle that. Well done.
All right. Anything else on? I think I've wrapped everything up. Anything else on your end, Solaris?
Yeah, just last question. I asked Grunt this. I'll ask you too. You know, with the Pink Puff League wrapping up, I believe next week. Just tell us about how's your experience been? Have you liked the Pink Puff League?
I haven't like played much this time. I've like
Sure.
stole the seeds in like random offline, just because for the most part it's not a great like time as in scheduling wise for me.
That makes sense.
But like it's always a hoot. Like I love that it like takes you to so many different styles of flag sets.
Yeah, for sure. I know the variety is one of the things I think is really awesome with the Pink Puff League. It just really exposes you to a ton of different things, and you get to kind of figure out which of these did like really quick click with me. Maybe it's some people fall in love with mystery, some people fall in love with like supermarket sweep, other people like the harder, quote unquote harder, or like more stringent problem solving flag sets, and it ends up just playing out for everybody to kind of find their niche.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that's all I wanted to ask myself too. I don't know. Any last words, Kryle, before we let you go?
I'd like to thank everyone in the free enterprise community. I'd like to thank everyone involved in the restream. I see talking to Molboy and Solaris. Thank you so much. Cubs, I think is tracking. A friend of mine, thank him so much as well. And Neon Grey for restreaming. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, and thank you again for putting on such a good show for us to watch there. We really appreciate it.
It's been really fun.
All right, until next time.
Bye.
All right. Well, I want to make sure to give a shout out to again the restream team. So Neon on restream, Cubs pushing all the buttons, and then of course Solaris is my fellow host on this one.
And we
And
can't
so,
forget Moleboy.
yeah, I mean, I was here and I talked or did something. It's been a very enjoyable 2 hours, but
Me too.
indeed. So in the meantime, we are going to be raiding over to Asuka. She is doing some practice for her fast fast pace for Pride Marathon scheduled. I think that's on Saturday, at 10 Eastern. But before we hit that, just a reminder: tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern, we have our Friday weekly race. That's going to be on Freen too, by the way. All the Friday races are restreamed there, so be sure to check that out. But in the meantime, thank you all for spending the time with us, getting to listen to us jabber and talk about this great race we just got to watch. And just have a great rest of your evening or night.
Bye.